Welcome to Dishing with Patricia. I'm so happy you're joining us today. I'm going to prepare a light meal today. It's going to have a peanut stew, and I'm also going to fix some okra for you. I have a special guest today, and her name is Deanna Williams. Deanna is a broadcast legend here in Philadelphia, and she is also the co-founder of Black Music Festival, I do believe. So without further ado, please welcome Deanna Williams. I'm so happy that you're my guest today.
I'm elated to finally be with you. We've been talking about this day, and here it is.
Yes, it's short coming. We've been going back and forth. She's had to change her schedule, and I really, really appreciate that. So without much more, tell us, what are you up to? Tell us all the dish
on what
goodness. You're up to.
Let's see. Well, first and foremost in my life is my family. Always. My grandson, Luke Gamble, who is the apple of all of our eyes.
Yes.
I couldn't wait to become a Nana, and I'm Nana Deanna, so that's the personal importance to me. But professionally, I am on the board of the National Museum of African American Music in Nashville, Tennessee, 5th and Broadway in the heart of downtown Nashville. And a lot of people say, Nashville? Yes, Nashville. It's not just country music. And we have to remember, Black folks were doing country music a long time ago. So many artists, gospel artists, R&B artists. In fact, Jimi Hendrix lived in Nashville for a period of time. So it has a long legacy as it pertains to Black music. But the museum, I've been involved for the last 7 years, proud board member, but we are having our grand opening in June, which is Black Music Month, that I had the honor of co-founding with my ex, Kenny Gamble, and broadcaster Ed Wright. So first and foremost, right now, professionally, it's the museum. And then my core business with my company, Influence Entertainment, where I'm the CEO, is artist development and media coaching. So I work with a lot of high-profile individuals as well as emerging talents as well, actors, directors. I just worked with a showrunner named Owen Smith, who is the showrunner for the last OG TV show just recently. So I work with recording artists and executives, athletes. I just worked with Carmelo Anthony recently. So a lot of great things.
So how did you transition from radio into what you're doing now?
I never stopped doing radio. Radio I've been doing since I was 18, and I'm good and grown now.
Great. Well, how did you start into radio and then move us forward?
Well,
please?
High school, I was taken one day to the radio station for the city of New York, and it was my first time physically ever in a radio station. And I was compelled. I was like, ooh, interesting. But I went to college in New York. I grew up in the Bronx and in Harlem. And I went to City College as a music major. I wanted to be a jazz flautist. But Patricia, when I tell you Miss Deanna lacked talent, I was talentless. And once I got in jazz improvisation classes, it became apparent to me that I needed to find another profession.
Wow.
So one day somebody invited me to the radio station at our school, and it was love at first sight. I saw an opportunity for me to take my knowledge of music and my passion and love for Black music specifically. And I learned the basics of running the board, the rudiments, and then I got my own show. Shortly thereafter, I became the music director. I just took over the radio station. So it was apparent to me very early that I was meant to be a broadcaster. So was either of your parents into music? Where did you? My father, George Williams, who is physically no longer with us. My daddy would blast the radio all the time. So I heard all the current music of the day, all the Motown music, and all the hit music. We used to listen to WABC and also to WWRL, which was equivalent to WDAS AM. So radio in my spirit, but it became apparent before my 18th birthday that that's what I wanted to do.
Wow. Yeah. That's great. And you've been doing that ever since?
Been doing it ever since. I literally was doing daily radio in Philadelphia at Classics 107.9 up until just before the pandemic started. And TV, so I've always done television and radio throughout my entire adult life.
Yes. Yeah. So the need to help current artists, as well as some artists that are not retired but need a fresh face. How did you get involved in that?
I've been doing artist development for the last 27 years.
Okay.
And my first client was Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, a group they had called Solo on their record label. And my phone has not stopped ringing. I don't advertise, word of mouth.
Yes.
And I've worked with everyone from Rihanna to Justin Bieber to Neo to Charlie Wilson, one of my favorites. A plethora of great artists, many whose names we're very familiar with, and music. And so a woman by the name of Sharon Haywood said, you know, Deanna, you should do artist development. Artists like you, and you seem to like them.
Yes.
And because of your background in radio, television, and print journalism, I had a monthly column in a magazine. I've contributed to the Philadelphia Tribune. I'm writing an article right now for Billboard magazine. So journalism, broadcasting, that's always been my affinity and my ability to share with young artists and established celebrities how to manage the currents of fame, fortune, and press. Absolutely.
That's needed.
Yes.
Because so often we see young artists coming out and you say, boy, someone needs to help them.
Exactly. Well, my clients don't get those kind of comments because they have had some coaching, and I like to call it collaboration. Oftentimes, their publicist might say, oh, you need media training. And then when I show up, they look at me and they're like, well, I thought you were going to be an old white woman with a ruler and, you know, correcting everything I say out my mouth. And I'm like, no, I'm not that girl. But I'm here to help you be a better communicator. Do I have all the answers? No. But I love exchanging with other people. And I love to see my clients be able to do it in the most efficient, effective ways where they get their messaging across about, in journalism, the basics are who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Yes.
And that's what I address with my clients. And I might say there's a woman who's deceased now. Her name is Maxine Powell. Mrs. Powell did artist development for Berry Gordy's Motown Records. So Stevie Wonder, Gladys Knight, Smokey Robinson, the Four Tops, the Temptations, all came through Mrs. Powell. And I literally made a special trip to Detroit while she was still living to sit, literally, I sat at her feet to just hear the stories and to glean from Mrs. Powell because I consider her the mother of artist development.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, we need that. Young people need that. As you said, some older artists need that as well.
Absolutely.
So tell me about
June Black Music Month.
Yes.
Yes, June Black Music Month is now in its 42nd year, Patricia. And I got to give a big shout out to one of my best friends, literally when we were getting ready to start shooting. He called me. Kenny Gamble is one of my favorite people on the planet. We have 3 adult children and 1 6.5-year-old grandson, Luke Gamble, that I mentioned earlier. But Gamble and I, when we were together, thought that it would be great, and originally it was Kenny's idea, to have a month, much like Black History Month, which is in February, but a month where we spend concentrated focus and energy on the recognition and celebration of music creators and consumers. It's not just all about the artist. It's about the songwriters, the producers, the engineers, the videographers, the journalists, any and everybody involved with the preservation and the promotion of Black music.
So how is this promoted? Is there a workshop series? Is there events that happen?
Yes.
And if you have a website, can you give us what the website is? Because I'll make sure that it's posted. And if there is an itinerary or an agenda, we'll make sure that folks know about that. So
thank you.
Give me some of the highlights.
Ma'am. Okay, people can go to blackmusicmonth.com, and that'll take them to the National Museum of African American Music. They are now the home, the repository of Black Music Month. So we are having beautiful celebrations June 17th through the 19th in Nashville for the national celebration of June Black Music Month. However, Patricia, all over the country, there are celebrations and events and activities. I just got a call yesterday. City Council is going to present a proclamation asking Philadelphians to join in on the celebration. And every American president since Jimmy Carter has done an acknowledgement of June Black Music Month with a presidential proclamation. So, however, when President Barack Obama came into office, he changed the name to African American Music Appreciation Month. I have a hard time even saying it, but Kenny Gamble and I, the co-founders,
yes,
we call it what we called it 42 years ago, Black Music Month. June is Black Music Month. Yes.
Wow. I have a hard time. I always say Black folks. I say Black people.
I'm with it.
I have a really hard time saying African. I'm African American. Okay. Why on that is it? Are you Black? I'm Black.
I know. There's a lot of big dialogue about, the article that I'm writing for Billboard magazine is what is in a name? Because some people now are referring to it as African American Music Appreciation Month because of Barack Obama. But then there are people who've been celebrating and cognizant of it as Black Music Month.
So why can't you appreciate Black Music Month?
It
doesn't have to be, but as long as you recognize it.
I recognize that as well,
exactly. As long as it's recognized.
I still call it Black Music Month.
Tell us about the museum. First of all, were there other sites that you all were thinking about other than Nashville?
Great question, and one we get whenever we say the museum is in Nashville. Nashville is Music City, and it's known mostly for country, but as I mentioned earlier, I mean, Jimi Hendrix lived there. You've got Jill Scott lives in Nashville now. There is a strong community. India Arie lives there, B.B. Winans. There are a lot of Black folks, artists, who are living currently in Nashville. And yes, other cities we in Philadelphia were trying to explore getting a museum for Black music. But Patricia, it's gotta be a cooperative effort between the private sector and the public sector and government.
Yes.
And that did not happen here. So when people question me about why Nashville? Because the city government, the state government, private sector came together and raised over $62 million to enable us to build this structure, which is in the heart of downtown Nashville, 5th and Broadway, and it is right across the street from the original Grand Ole Opry, which is the Ryman Auditorium.
Yes.
So, and again, a collaborative effort between government, civic, business, everybody.
I mean, because of the history that Philadelphia has in music, I've often wondered, why isn't Philadelphia a destination city for music?
Good question. Very good question.
Okay, well,
We'll
have to ask someone one time. Maybe I'll have someone as my guest.
But you know, we're still TSOP. We're still known as the Sound of Philadelphia, and we've exported this wonderful music, not just from Gamble Huff and Tom Bell, and the aggregation of wonderful musicians and songwriters and artists.
Yes.
And before that, it was Cameo Parkway Records. And considering the fact that Philadelphia was the first capital of these United States of America, there was a brother who was a trumpet player, I want to say Brother Johnson, and he was world-renowned. But so were the Fifth Jubilee singers out of Nashville, who traveled all over the world in the 1800s as ambassadors of Black music. So yes, Philadelphia has made a sizable contribution that continues. But, you know, and the music has evolved. We have a lot of young artists coming out of Philadelphia now, Bree Steves, PNB Rock, Meek Mill, they're all Philadelphians. And so we still have a strong contingency of creativity. And Patti LaBelle still lives in the area.
Yes.
We have Kindred, the Family Soul, Asia and Fatine. There's still a pocket of great musicians and artists here.
So I mean, it's difficult to ask you, did you have a favorite artist? I mean, I know that's difficult. Okay, so what's your favorite song?
That's like asking me, no, but I can answer that question. I love Darling, Darling Baby by the OJs. It's one of my favorite songs.
Oh, great. That's good. If you were out somewhere and they played a song and nobody knew who you were or anything, what would be a song that you would pick up immediately that you said,
You know, I'm very tuned into, I'm an auditory person. I'm visual too, because I love art. But immediately when I walk into an environment, I hear the music first, or I hear the sounds. I'm very keyed into sounds. And then my aesthetic is visual. I'm looking at colors and textures and art. And me, I'm very uncomfortable being in an environment that's sterile. I need to see color and I need art. I have art all over every room in my house, bathrooms, kitchens, hallways, art stacked on top of, I'm an art collector.
Yes.
So, but yeah, music is what I would be keyed into first, and I would hear the music that's being played in an environment right away.
That's special. because not only here on Dishing with Patricia, we food is part of my program in Dishing with Patricia, and we will have some food before the segment is over. But I feel that food is spiritual, but also music is spiritual. And Bruce could tell you that not just on Sundays, he thinks it's only Sundays, but it's not just on Sundays. I'm listening to my gospels, but it brings me back to my mother.
Yes.
On Sunday mornings, Martha Jean the Queen from Detroit. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay, yeah.
So that was what was on the radio, and then Reverend Cleveland, and then C.L. Franklin. So that brings me back to the spiritual aspect of food, because it brings me close to my mother. And how I started on this journey is with my mother through food. So tell me about your relationship with your dad, with music, because that is on a spiritual plane with you, and that makes it special. Yeah. So how did that influence you, other than, you know, you heard the radio all the time? But I'm one of 10. Ooh. Yes, my mother had 10 children.
Wow.
But all of us can cook, but I'm the one that took on that different aspect of food because of my mother.
Wow.
So,
well, you know, the term comfort food.
Yes.
Food that comforts us.
Yes.
Food that, and as you just recalled, it brings back memories of our loved ones. Same thing with my dad. My father grew up in Culpeper, Virginia, so he was a Southern boy.
Yes.
So collard greens, yams, all that I got introduced by my Black daddy.
Yes.
But then my mother is Puerto Rican. Both parents, mother, father, Puerto Rican. And so I grew up with collard greens and plantains, rice and beans, you know, so it was a combination, this interesting combination of me being an Afro-Latina.
Yes.
So fond memories of going down to visit my father's family in Virginia. I will tell you this though, first time I ever tasted chitlins, or first time I ever smelled them, I have a very vivid memory, was with my father's people, and I was a little girl, and I got so sick from the smell of it. And then the taste of it, it was a wrap. So culturally and spiritually, you're right, there is a spiritual connection. First of all, where does the food come from? It's coming from God.
Yes,
Same energy that created us. And then when you see how food is grown, where it comes from, and how, you know, you put seeds in the ground, and then how it comes up, and how the process, all of it is very spiritual, because food gives us nourishment and provides us with preferably high octane, depending on what kind of food you're consuming. Yes. So I see the connection between food and life.
But music too is on a spiritual aspect of it too.
Absolutely, girl. A good meal and good music, and good company, the combination of that, it's like a win-win-win. So I'm in favor of all of that.
It is a good thing. So the museum is opening, having a grand opening.
Yes, the museum is currently open, but the grand opening is going to be June 17th in Nashville. Yes.
Is there any special artists that are going to be there?
Oh, my goodness, Patricia. We are honoring Quincy Jones, Smokey Robinson, Lionel Richie, the Fifth Jubilee Singers, and Shaka Khan. They will be honored on June 17th at the Ryman Auditorium, which is right across the street from our museum. Yes. And we have one day of music business panels, and there's a plethora of people, some notable names and others that people don't know. We're doing a street, there's gonna be like a street fair party where we open the museum to the community to come in for free to experience it. So yes, we're a lot of A-listers, a lot of people who are part of our musical legacy. Anthony Hamilton is performing, Selena Johnson, just a bunch of people.
Is this going to air on television?
Actually, no, it's not airing on television. It's going to be streamed virtually, though. I think our website, I don't know the details on it, but people can go, again, to blackmusicmuseum.com, or you can go to MAAM.org. That stands for the National Museum of African American Music.
That is great.
Yes.
So is there going to be a special event here in Philadelphia?
Well, here we go. I got asked that just recently by the city council folks were asking me. I don't know of a specific event because my energy has been in Nashville with the museum as a board member. However, I know that the African American Museum in Philadelphia has recently reopened.
Yes.
And typically the museum does activities. So I would say I'm a member, and I should know this, but I believe that they will be doing special activities. Given what's happened with COVID, it's been, people are just starting to get back in action, as you well know, scheduling events and concerts. I'm getting a flurry of emails now about all these concerts. In fact, just before we went on air, I saw that Jay-Z's Rock Nation is coming back a Labor Day weekend to do his big event on the Parkway. So I think more people being vaccinated, more opportunities for celebrations.
Yes.
But I would say read the Philadelphia Tribune, our Black newspaper, to find out more activities going on, and your local newspapers to find out what is going on in your communities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you had an artist coming out today, I don't know who it would be. Anybody, just call and say, I need your help. What would be some of the first things you said to them? I need you. This is the Bible of how you should succeed. Tell me, what are some of the things that you would suggest? Because we know that there's a lot of money in the music industry, and I just hate when I hear about these young people just blowing their monies. So tell me some of the things that you would tell a young artist today, how they should handle their business.
Excellent point and observation. First thing, one of the early things I say to all of my clients is knowledge is power. The more information you have, the more powerful you become as an individual. And so with the great resource of the internet, I encourage my clients to read Billboard.com, to read publications that are going to give them current information about what is going on in the industry. But also I advise them to read multiple books. I have a bibliography list that I share with my clients. Everything from a book called The Big Payback, which is the history of the business of hip hop, amongst other books that just deal with learning contracts, learning about royalties, learning the specifics about the business that they are in, and reading. Today, young people don't read quite like our generation.
Yes.
They read little snippets. It's in just little sound bites, little pieces of information.
Cliff notes.
This is what Cliff Notes, a clickbait, they call it sometimes. They read just little synopsises of information. So I'm giving them information. I have a workbook that I share with my clients. So we go through the workbooks and it delineates the who, what, where, when, why, and how. And I'm always encouraging my clients, have a good lawyer. Don't sign anything that's going to enslave you legally into a situation where you are not being compensated properly and or that locks you in to a situation.
Has that stopped? Has that trend stopped?
It continues.
We've known for years.
You have a lot of gullible people who want to get on and they think, and they're very eager to get in. So oftentimes they'll sign. I had a client last year who was young. He was 18. He had just turned 18. But he had a contract that was signed when he was a minor. So I said to him, it had to be a guardian that signed this contract because he didn't even know that he was signed to a record company. And I found that horrible. So to answer your question, yes, people do sign bad deals in their eagerness and they don't read it. And they don't have a person who's knowledgeable with the legal language of a recording contract or an entertainment contract. And then they find themselves in a really bad situation that they have to try to get
History
out of.
repeating itself.
It has been happening since you always have evil people who are taking advantage of good and kind people who are not knowledgeable. So, yes.
So to move on to another subject, which is food. Food is one of my favorite subjects. When I'm nervous, I cook. When I'm stressed out, I cook. But I cook a lot of stuff and then I want to just give it away because I've used all this energy in cooking all this stuff and now I don't want to eat it. So tell me, what are some of your favorite things that you like to cook?
I cook plantains at least once a week.
Okay.
I mean, again, this is the Puerto Rican girl now.
Yes.
And I used to go to Reading Terminal to buy collard greens. I don't cook them well. I tried once, and it was a disaster, Patricia. Maybe you can give me your collard green recipe, because it's a skill to make great collard greens. But, you know, I don't eat meat, so I cook. I'll make egg white omelets and, you know, vegetables. I'm big on vegetables. I make a lot of smoothies. I'll wake up in the morning and just get all my fruits in the, you know, the NutriBullet for the day. I'll do my 4 or 5: papaya, mango, pineapple, banana, red delicious apples. I think I told you I love it sweet.
Yes,
the sweeter, the better.
Yes,
the better I like it.
Yes.
So yeah, those are the kind of things.
But being from the islands, your mom and things, so that would explain why you're talking about having fresh fruits and having fresh foods and things. One of my recipes today, I'm going to have plantains for you, and one of my dishes is a peanut stew that has collard greens in the recipe.
Now that sounds very African.
Yes, it is very African. With my husband and I, we have a foundation and we go to Africa. But not just that, the root of our foods started in the motherland. So how can we not bring that forward in the things that we eat? And not only the things that who we are as our people, how we dress, how we present ourselves. And one of the things, I'm so happy that we're transitioning, that we recognize that it's okay to wear our hair like I'm wearing my hair. It's okay to wear your hair natural. But it goes back to food. The basis of this is food is our medicine. So one of the things that I'm happy to hear about what you're saying is that you have chosen to eat a more healthier, fairer food. So does your mom cook for you too?
No, mommy's not cooking as much now. I'm doing the cooking for her.
That's good.
So you know what? Fresh wild Alaskan salmon, you know, yams, broccoli, spinach, kale. I love a good kale salad. Roughage, you know, I think that is super important. Yes. So yeah, I'm cooking for mommy.
How are you addressing the being Black and
Latina. Being Afro-Latina.
Yes, Afro-Latina.
All the time. In fact, I said some years ago, because I would speak Spanish on the radio, and somebody was like, "Oh, you speak Spanish?" I'm like, "I'm Puerto Rican." And even the Puerto Rican, the Latino community here in Philadelphia was very slow to embrace me as a Latina. And I would say it all the time, but then I started getting invitations to host the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Finally, when they discovered, they were like, "Oh my goodness, she is Puerto Rican." They would see my mother and they'd be like, "Oh, she's Puerto Rican." Yes, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm a proud Afro-Latina. And having grown up in the Bronx and in Manhattan, you know, that's not an uncommon thing to see a person who is Black and Latino as well, Dominicans, whatever. But I'm legitimately, my father was African-American, Irish, you know, the combination of Black folks that have been enslaved. But my daddy was Black and my mother Puerto Rican. So I raised my Puerto Rican flag real high. I'm quick to let people know. In some cases, I'll be listening because I read it, I write it, and I speak it. And sometimes I'm around Latin people who think I'm just Black.
Correct.
And they are talking crazy. And I'm like, and then I'll just be quiet and I'll say, "Ay, te entiendo." And then they're like, "Oh my God, te entiendo" means I understand you. I understand what you're saying. Yes. So, but I love the mixture of the cultures. And at the end of the day, as you all know, you and Bruce having traveled to Africa, it's African. I'm an African woman. When I went to Africa the very first time, we went to Senegal. We landed in Senegal. The next morning, and we arrived at night, my mother went to the market, found a seamstress, had her outfits made, was wearing her gele, and was garbed down the entire time we were in Africa. Yes. So I'm very pleased to have a mother who recognized, even though she was Puerto Rican, and she understood, she overstood that we were dropped off in that particular island, but she knows we've done our DNA. Yes. We have done our ancestry.com, African ancestry.com. So we know our tribes, we know what areas we're from. My mother's real clear that she is an African woman and raised me to be a conscious African woman as well. So yeah, I'm Latina and Black, but I'm African.
Yes, exactly. They see your face. You're Black.
I'm Black.
You're Black.
That's it.
So with all of that being said, so now that we've been talking about food, before we move on to my food segment, I just want to know, is there something that you want us to talk about that we have not talked about about your museum, about the music month? Have we missed anything?
No, I'm ready for the food part.
You're ready for the
I'm
food
ready
part?
for the food part because, Patricia, I follow you. I've been watching you. I know that you are very heavy into nutrition and whole eating and healthy eating, which is really where I am. If it weren't for carbs, I'd be straight because I'm a carb lover and I love sweets. But no, I have great respect for what you're doing. It's important. Our community needs to know more about healthy eating, and we need to be about it. You know, oftentimes, and again, I think this is a throwback, I know for a fact, because I'm minored in African American Studies at Temple University, my alma mater, where I also sit on the board of the Klein School of Media and Communication. We traditionally were given the worst foods. We were left to eat the scraps. And because we're creative and inventive, as you well know, we would take those scraps and make the most delicious meals. But we have always had the lesser quality foods. We often live in food deserts.
Yes, we do.
And you are combating that with the information that you're sharing with our community.
Well,
so that's what else I wanted to say.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative for you coming on the show. I've heard about you through my husband, Bruce, and I did hear you on the radio years ago. So I'm just so happy that you decided to come along. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to eat. Yes, we are. Yes,
I am ready. Let's do this.
Yes. Welcome back to Dishing with Patricia. This is my Dishing with Patricia segment that I'm going to dish up something good for you. And my guest, Deanna Williams, is going to help me prepare my dish. So Deanna, come on
Patricia.
over.
Girl, I'm so ready.
Being that Deanna is Afro-Latino, I decided to do some plantains. So while I am making the dipping sauce for the plantains, Deanna is going to show us how she cuts her plantain, and then we're going to go from there. So let's get started. So tell us what you're doing.
Patricia, this is a plantain. Here we go. It comes green and yellow. My mother likes the yellow ones.
Okay.
I love the green ones, although I can enjoy the sweet ones as well.
Yes.
Plátano maduros are the green ones. So here are the yellow ones.
Okay, so tell me what you do.
Okay, so I usually cut it on an angle.
Okay.
Because I tend to, and this is kind of how plantains often are. You can do them the way we have them here on the tray, but I like to make them, create them on an angle, and I often do them thin. Ooh, look at this. So I'm messing things up. Yeah, I won't cut my finger. Right. Oh, this is funny. Okay. All right. So anyway, this is how I cut them. Okay. But they can be enjoyed that way. But you have a special recipe, and I am living to taste it.
Okay. So I have a vegan dipping sauce that has vegan mayonnaise. I love Hellmann's vegan mayonnaise. Yes, it is. So we're going to use vegan mayonnaise. This is Hellmann's. Hellmann's is not, giving me any money. We got some fresh lemon. I have some garlic that I just put in the food processor and just, minced it up really good. This is chipotle. Oh, I was just going to say, what is that? I love a little spice with my food. And here is some salt.
Yes, and you're using Himalayan pink salt crystals, which I use as well.
Just put this here. So you just mix this together. And I have already prepared some plantains already before she and I started. So this is our dipping sauce. But because of the sake of time, I'm going to put this over here. And I'm going to reach in the oven, and I'm going to take out some that I made already. So just 1 second. Give me a second.
What do you have on them, Patricia? I noticed you
olive oil.
Olive oil. Okay, perfect.
Olive oil.
All right.
Just spritzing some olive oil. You can give this to me.
Yes,
I'll sit this here.
All right.
And we'll move this over.
Okay.
No, just leave that right there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And we're going to sit this here.
Ah. Yes.
Look at that.
Beautiful.
Let me get a pair of tongues. So, may I have this plate that I've set there for you?
Absolutely.
So this is how they look when they come out. So I cooked one side. All it is salt and olive oil. There's nothing else, just salt and olive oil. And I put it on a parchment paper. So,
but you smashed them as well.
yes,
Looks
so
like you
what I
smashed
did
them.
is I cooked one side, then I turned it over and smashed it, and then I just let them both just roast. So I'm just going to, this is the final product. Just 1 second.
Okay. Yay.
Look at this.
Wow.
This looks really good. So I just want to put a little
That
right
looks
there,
beautiful.
right there. So I want you to try that.
Okay.
And then tell me what you think.
All right. So I've been waiting to taste.
Okay.
Oh, the chipotle. Oh.
Is it too spicy?
I've never had it like this before, but delicious.
I debated, should I do a salsa or should I do a guacamole? And I said, no, I want something quick and easy. This is a perfect snack for your family, real quick.
Delicious.
Your children would like it. It's healthier than frying your plantains, and it has a crispy taste to it. So I suggest that you try this at home. All of my recipes can be found on classyandessentialnutrition.com. So give us a second. I have a couple more things I want to share with her. We'll be right back. Hi, we're back, and I have another recipe. And this recipe is creamy peanut butter stew. Creamy peanut butter stew. So any of you folks that have spent any time in Africa, a peanut butter stew is a staple, and it's always has a lot of goodness in it. So in celebration, upcoming Juneteenth, I wanted to mix up the food a little bit. I started off with Afro-Latino food with the plantains, and now I'm going to go to a African dish, and Deanna's going to help me. Yes. So to start, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a short version of this. My recipe for this, all of my recipes can be found on classyandessentialnutrition.com. So let's get started. So this is sweet potatoes, and this is some olive oil. So please spritz it with some olive oil for me, please.
I noticed that you use the olive oil also on the plantains. Yes. I often use grapeseed oil. Yes. Is that all right as well?
Yes, no, that's fine. That's fine. The only thing that you need to be careful about is when you're cooking different oils on your food, because certain temperatures, certain oils you should not cook, because it does not cook at a higher temperature, and it really makes the oils unhealthy for you. Okay. So I would be careful. Okay. So I'm going to put this in the oven in just a second. But in the interim, we're going to add, these are chopped onions. Yeah, I love onions too. So what I have in here, but we're just trying to save some time. But what I have right here, this is just a little bit of vegetable stock. Normally what I would do is saute my onions, my garlic, my ginger, my peppers, and you want to build your flavor. You should never just have your foods at once. Start layering it. I don't want you to build it up. So this here, and my hands are clean. This is fresh ginger.
I love ginger.
I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to put, this is some fresh garlic. This is going to go in here. And what I'll do, because of time's sake, I normally would layer this and cook it slow. But it's okay for all of this to go in if you're trying to save some time. Add more stock, put it on simmer. Don't put it on high, put it on simmer. And this here is still a little bit of lemon juice, but that goes in the end. This is habanero.
Ooh, you like it hot. Yes, you like it hot, spicy, Patricia.
So this is some tomato paste. When you're cooking with tomato paste, do not add your tomato paste once all the liquids are there. I want you to add your tomato paste when you've just had the onions and the garlic and things like that, because you want to start building your flavor. You want the acidity to start in. Gotcha. So let's put this in here. Normally I would not do that, but for sake of time, we're going to do that. So I have, this is fresh collard greens. So let me show you guys how, a lot of times, and I do this too, I will cut the vein out of the collard green, but this here, you can roast this and it's crunchy. Don't throw it away. Save it. So you keep the stems and you keep it into
like
the
a potato chip?
It's not going to come out that crunchy, but it'll come out crunchy.
It's still healthy and nutritious.
Yes, exactly. But when you're fixing things like this, it slows down the cooking process if you keep those stems in there. So cut the stem out. Then I want you to roll this.
Wow.
Roll this. Never, and collard greens cook faster. That thing that collard greens take out to cook, no, that's not true. And just julienne it. See that?
Mm-hmm.
See, look the little ribbons that comes out of it. I've already done some of this. So I'm going to put this in here too. Mm-hmm. Here is the remainder of my stock. Oh, sorry. Hope it didn't spill over. And then I have some roasted tomatoes. Do you see these tomatoes?
On the vine.
On the vine. I roasted them at 450 degrees. And I also put my okra in there. So what I did, I put this on 450 until the tomatoes start to blister. And when they start to blister, then you're able to pull the skin off. Do you see this?
Yes.
Because sometimes the skin can be a little bitter, right. and it toughens up also inside of what you're cooking. So just take this off and pull this out. I like to put my hands in my foods. So then I just crush it. Mm-hmm. Just crush it up. And then this is going to go on the stove, simmer for about 25, 30 minutes. And give us a second, guys, and I'll come back and I'll show you the finished product. Welcome back. Here is the final product. This is my creamy peanut butter stew, but I got a surprise for you guys. I put some ground Beyond meat inside of this because my husband is here, our crew is here, and I know they like my vegan food, but sometimes they want like, can we have something else put inside of it? So this is the final dish. So I put my roasted sweet potatoes that I showed you on the earlier part of the segment. And here is some jalapenos. There is peanut butter inside of this recipe, but I also put whole peanut butters on the top. This is from roasted okra that I did earlier that is sliced. But this is some crispy okra that I just sliced down the middle. And I'm going to put this on a garnishment on your plate, in your bowl. So I'm hoping that you will like this. This is really, 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 really good.
It looks delicious. Oh my goodness.
I'm hoping that you will like this. I'll kind of avoid some of the whole jalapenos over there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Miss Spicy. Okay, I'm not that spicy girl. I'll start crying and my nose will start running.
Let me just, if you don't mind, let me just place this a little bit right there for you.
I love
and bon appetit. Okay, I want to hear what you got to say, what you think about it. Tell us.
Ooh. That is so good. It's so delicious.
You like it?
I love it.
You love it? You love it? Well, what can I say? Just one more time, Dishing with Patricia has created a successful meal for our guests. But I'll be remiss if I didn't show you guys my biscuits. Can I have my biscuits? These are so good. I cheated and I had like one after I made them. And I don't typically do that. But these are biscuits. They may not look like biscuits, but they are. So this recipe as well will be on classyandessentialnutrition.com. This is made with almond meal and almond flour with fresh basil and ground flaxseed meal. That's all. And almond meal. That's it. Five ingredients. So, guys, please join us again with Dishing with Patricia next month. But before I go, don't forget to mask up. We know that our country is coming around. We're at the last stretch of this race. I want us to stay safe. I want us to be healthy. I want to see you guys at Christmas time when I show you a Dishing with Patricia Christmas meal. So until next time, bye.